And then they started asking me about North Korea, like where I lived and things like that. But honestly, I didn't have much to say because when I said I lived somewhere in Busan, they just said, okay, wait a moment, and quickly found it on a satellite map. And then the National Intelligence Service, I came out of Anseong Hanawan in the 4th group. When you first came out into society, you had this fantasy about South Korea from watching dramas and things like that, right? How was it? How did the South Korea you imagined, the South Korea you dreamed of actually look to you? Well, as soon as I arrived in Korea and came out of Hanawan, all those fantasies were shattered right away. Those imaginations were gone immediately.
They were shattered? Why?
It was good for the first couple of days because as soon as I got out, usually a cell phone...
You activate it?
So I just watched YouTube on my phone, and back then I didn't think about anything, I just looked at my phone. Then I ended up going to school, but since I couldn't attend school starting from the 3rd year of middle school...
That's when I started going again, so...
I entered an alternative school.
A lot of people go there.
Yes, I entered an alternative school, but when I got there, they told me to study. But in North Korea, I only studied up to the 4th grade in elementary school.
I didn't study, and also...
Since I didn't study during that remaining time, I couldn't remember anything.
That's right, exactly.
Yes, and because of that, it became really tough for me. Then I had to face reality, and people started talking about realistic things.
They tell you those things.
While listening to that, I wondered, what should I do for a living? Initially, some people gave me that type of advice. Since I couldn't study past the 4th grade in North Korea, some people suggested that I should go out and learn a skill, like operating an excavator or something like that.
And get a license.
And work in a technical job.
That also makes money.
You can make a lot of money that way, but since you don't have a diploma, you need to get one first. So I went to school and studied. It was really hard at first, but as I kept doing it, studying became fun. It was difficult, but learning things I didn't know at all before was interesting and enjoyable. And because of that, I somehow ended up getting into college, and now...
You're attending college now, right?
So you came to South Korea when you were 17, and at that age, you were experiencing freedom for the first time, so you must have wanted to try a lot of things and have fun. How did you overcome those feelings? But when I arrived in Korea, I was 18 years old. At first, I received basic living support from the government, as everyone does. Before that, I had lived in the countryside, so I had almost never managed money before. Sometimes my mom would give me some allowance.
North Korean money?
If she gave me a few thousand won, I'd buy drinks or something similar with it.
That's what I did, and then...
Suddenly one day money was deposited into my bank account.
That's what happened. I got a bank account.
And once I had money, I went shopping a lot in Korea. I shopped a lot, and back then, I didn't really understand the value of money.
Because I was at that age.
Whenever I got money, I would just go out with my friends and eat meat.
Eat meat, and then...
Go shopping, just shopping, and maybe about once a week.
3 times.
I think I went more than that. So back then, I didn't really know the value of money and just spent it carelessly.
That's right, at first.
Everything.
That's right, financially.
The concept itself is completely different between North Korea and our Republic of Korea. That's why, at first, it's not that I wanted to spend money recklessly, but because I didn't know its value, I spent it recklessly. I went around spending recklessly like that. What surprised you the most? What was the most surprising thing in our country? Someone I know has a house in Gangwon-do.
So that person?
He suggested we visit his parents' farm in Gangwon-do together, and I agreed. I used to frequently visit Gangwon-do and nearby areas for leisure.
So?
And I went there for a trip and also helped out with some work.
Let's do it and go.
That's why I went. I went, and there was someone who owned 50,000 pyong of land.
That's what happened. On 50,000 pyong?
They farm there, but I saw that only the 2 of them do all the work.
Farming,
I was surprised. In North Korea, a 50,000 pyong project would require an entire work team from the labor union.
Well, that kind of thing.
After doing that at least 150 people are needed to really do that. In North Korea, everyone is...
Because people do it, right? People do it, but...
When I went there were so many machines.
There for rice planting.
Almost everything for rice planting is done by machines.
And also
harvesting is done by machines.
They do everything.
That was amazing. You can farm this easily. That's right. In North Korea, everything is done by hand. You could say it's all manual labor.
They manually weed everything while carrying a computer like this.
That's how they do it. But since it's our country, seeing one person manage and farm a huge 50,000 pyong field alone, people were absolutely shocked. I mean, I was honestly stunned myself. What surprised me the most was when I went to Gangwon-do.
You'd be surprised, right?
Even though there were things that surprised me, there must have been things I liked the most while traveling around like that. When I first took public transportation after coming here, it was really difficult to use.
Because, you know...
Even though it's clearly the same station, you have to know which direction to go because the directions are different.
Since I don't know that...
I enter, but it's the wrong place. After walking, I end up somewhere else.
That's right, exactly. So...
At first, that was really difficult. So this might be a bit of too much information, but everyone was standing. There were no seats.
Even though there were plenty of seats.
There were seats on one side.
Here.
There were seats for the elderly and disabled, but I didn't know.
At first, the seat...
I was there, but everyone was standing. I wondered, why isn't anyone sitting?
I didn't know anything, so I just went and sat down.
I was sitting comfortably, and then an elderly person came and sat in front of me. So they kept looking at me strangely. I was just sitting there using my phone, but no matter how I looked at it, I could feel something was off.
So at that moment...
Since I didn't know, I went to the dorm and asked the dorm teacher. I said, I was sitting there, but the elder kept looking at me in a bad way.
That's what I said, so...
The teacher laughed and said, that's the seat for the weak.
It's a reserved seat, so why are you sitting there?
So, if any of our viewers use public transportation and find themselves sitting in a seat that's not meant for young people, people might think, oh, maybe he's from North Korea.
If you kindly point that out.
I would appreciate it. Because of that...
There was also something like that.
That's right. I didn't know at first, so...
There was that too, but...
Public transportation is really good, right? Honestly, these days, public transportation works better than driving a car in Seoul.
That looks like...
Now, most people living in Seoul use public transportation. If you can't take the subway, well, it does get crowded during rush hour.
But...
There's no reason to be late or anything like that. So I think things like this are really well organized. That's right, coming to our country at such a young age. Coming here at 18, there must have been good things and surprising things, but I think it must have been hard to adapt as well. And there were also difficult things too.
What kind of things were those?
What kind of things were there? Right, it's not easy to adapt. Because when I first came here, North Korean people's way of speaking is a bit... The intonation is a bit higher and stronger, you know. So when I went to an alternative school in Korea, the teachers couldn't really understand what I was saying. Maybe even now, some of the viewers watching don't really understand what I'm saying.
There are probably people who feel that way too, that's right?
So when I went to school, usually here people would say, yeah, I'm a teacher, please teach me, like that.
That's what they usually say.
That's what they do, but at first, since I didn't know, I asked them to teach me, you know, like...
Please do it confidently.
That's what I said. One day the teacher told me that you shouldn't say things like that in Korea.
That's what happened.
There was that, and also when it comes to friends, honestly, Korean friends, honestly, the gap between what I experienced in North Korea and what I experienced in South Korea was just too big.
That's right. Usually,
I'm in my early 20s now, but honestly, I have to talk with people over 40 for things to really make sense to me. Due to this, I initially struggled to connect with friends my age. Having conversations with them was challenging for me.
because
Those friends didn't really understand what we were saying. And since it was my first time, I didn't really know either. Also, our ages were kind of awkward. We were both 18, right? So we were talking as two 18-year-olds. They were talking about PC rooms and game rooms here, and comic books,
talking about,
animation.
we watch a lot of animation, talking about animation, and then we read webtoons.
While doing those things, I was farming.
Would I be able to do voice acting?
I didn't know anything, not even what a webtoon was.
I didn't know, but still.
Even if I tried, would it matter? A war? They don't even know about that.
In the past.
They're just talking about dramas and stories, so how could we even have a real conversation?
At first it was really...
It was difficult. Things like conversations between friends or language-related
problems, things like that.
We just couldn't form a sense of empathy with each other. When discussing farming, it's unlikely that most people, even those in their 40s, have much knowledge about it.
People in their 50s and 60s.
Only then can we really relate to each other.
That's how a bond is formed.
So I think that's why there were some difficulties. Even though things like that happened when I came to Korea, people still have to make a living, right? Since eating is a basic necessity, what was the most delicious food? The food I like the most, the one I came to like after coming here, is sashimi. Oh, sashimi. Honestly, like in North Korea, for people like us, it's not easy to eat pork more than 4 or 5 times a year. But when it comes to seafood, what we eat a lot are things like sandfish, mackerel, pike, and anchovies.
Like that?
Still, I do eat some, but I've never actually tried raw fish like sashimi myself.
My first time.
I came here and tried it, and seriously, I was like, what is this? It was like heaven.
Definitely young.
Maybe it's because they're young. In North Korea, you can't eat raw fish.
Because you can't eat it in North Korea. When you come to South Korea,
When you eat raw fish for the first time here, the texture,
itself is kind of off-putting.
some people have a reaction.
There are many people who do to raw fish.
There are also many people who can't eat it. Because there are people who have never eaten it in their whole life and then come to Korea and they feel a bit of discomfort about eating raw meat like this. So there are people who can't eat it. But it seems like you eat it well. At first I didn't really know what the texture was like when I tried to eat it, but as I kept eating it, I found it really savory and delicious. When I first arrived, my taste remained largely North Korean for 1 to 2 years, with much of it persisting.
I still had that, and then
I realized I couldn't really get used to Korean food.
after a while...
Perhaps due to my young age, I nearly forgot about North Korean cuisine after some time.
That's right.
So at first, this too, naengmyeon, here when you eat samgyeopsal, you eat a lot of naengmyeon, right?
You eat it as a dessert.
I came to eat naengmyeon, and honestly it felt a bit weird, but after just one bite, it started coming up. Honestly, at first I couldn't eat naengmyeon. At first, the food just didn't suit my taste.
What kind?
Things like that, especially naengmyeon was the hardest. Why? In North Korea, it's called nongmakgeoksu.
We eat that a lot.
I used to eat naengmyeon, and the noodles wouldn't break easily, and the texture, I can't really describe it well. You know, nokma noodles are chewy too, but the ones I had there, we usually eat them in hot broth a lot.
We used to eat them, naengmyeon.
We ate them in something cold, and I don't know why, but I kept having a negative reaction to it. To put it another way,
I can't really explain it, but something about it.
it kept making my stomach feel...
I just couldn't accept it.
But now I eat really well. I eat well these days. It suits me well, yes.
Now, almost...
I can eat almost anything, which is good. It's not good to have dietary restrictions.
Everything well?
You have to eat well. The food culture here is incomparable to North Korea's.
It's so developed. There are so many varieties, so I still...
I have so many things I haven't tried yet.
I think so, right.
There are quite a lot of things I haven't tried either. But the fact that there are things you can't eat is not a good thing. You only eat what you usually eat, but you should try everything. Have you tried hongeo, fermented skate? I haven't tried it yet either, but I should.
Give it a try, my friends.
Keep telling me to give it a try.
At first?
The smell itself was a bit off-putting.
But...
I actually like skate too. If you wrap skate with pork belly and kimchi and eat it.
That's samhap. That's samhap.
We now call it samhap, but back then I didn't know its name. I tried it on someone's recommendation and found it delicious. I like it. So what are you doing these days? Right now I'm preparing for a language training program. Are you attending any university at the moment? I'm studying global commerce at Sungsu University.
Yes, Sungsu University Global Commerce.
Commerce is essentially a trade major that involves studying subjects like English and other foreign languages.
Important. So...
Since I have a lot more shortcomings compared to my Korean friends.
That's right, that's right.
So I'm preparing to go to New Zealand for a year of language study, but I'm short on money and things like that.
So right now?
I'm working part-time with a close hyung, installing noise-blocking mats between floors. I went to school in our country, and I'm also attending college here, but in North Korea, I could only go up to elementary school. But even in North Korea, what I heard was...
You know, those kinds of...
When you think about those things, have you ever felt any differences or distortions in history between the education you received here and what you learned in North Korea? When it comes to history, in North Korea, for example, they teach that South Korea started the Korean War, you know? Of course, I just believed that was true and thought that way. But when I came here, the first thing that most people from North Korea usually find out is that...
Right? The invasion of the South.
They were the ones who invaded.
North Korea did, but...
But now North Korea says that's not the case and that they...
Didn't do it, not at all.
They distorted the story to make themselves look better. I also keep mixing up northern and southern invasions.
North Korea calls it a southern invasion.
That's how they teach it.
And North Korea...
They teach that South Korea invaded North Korea, so they call it a southern invasion. But in our country, we don't say it like that.
They call it a southern invasion.
But it was North Korea that invaded.
Southern invasion, that...
Where did you see that story? Talking about dongchim, that's why I understood the comments too. People call it dongchim, not sonchim. So, I keep thinking about that.
So, namchim.
Shinbakan.
That's a clever way, dongchim.
I know it as Namchim like this, but coming here I really feel it. They're real scammers, seriously.
Scammer.
I keep thinking they're bastards, especially since you lived in Boshonbo.
There are a lot of memorial towers too.
Kim Il-sung also did the launch movement, but do you know that? It's all based on history. However, there's none of that here at all. The Battle of Bochonbo was fought by Kim Il-sung, but people simply attended events at the battle's memorial tower without knowing the specifics of the engagement.
Kim Il-sung did this.
And it was made into a really big event.
That's right, Bochonbo.
The battle became a big event.
North Korea is a unique country where the Joseon dynasty still lives on today, but it was a lie, a total lie.
If the North Korean people knew this, if the North Korean people knew, do you really think that Kim Chi's dictatorship would still be in place? If all the North Korean people knew these facts, it's because they don't know. Because information is blocked.
That's why.
That's why they're deifying him. That's probably why people in North Korea live like that. What do you think? Are you satisfied with your life right now? Yes, I think I'm very satisfied. Of course, there were a lot of tough times and I couldn't talk about everything, but there were a lot of hardships. But every time I think about it, I feel so grateful. Because until I was 17, I worked on a farm and ate mixed grain rice. That's how I lived. But after coming here, I have money in my bank account.
And if I want to work part-time, I have to do labor.
Meeting just a few people is enough for me.
You gain a lot from it, so...
Well, honestly, I can do everything I want, can't I?
For example?
I'm studying right now because I want to, and also...
That's also...
My circumstances allow me to do it. So I think this part is really great. So I'm living very contentedly. You're living contentedly, but is there anything you want to try or something you really want to do in the future? Not yet.
Because you're still young, you must have a lot of dreams.
You have big ambitions too, right? Your dreams are really
big and all that.
But when we reunify in the future, I really want to go to North Korea, build schools and support them. Honestly, it wasn't just me where I lived. My friends too, after going to elementary school, couldn't continue on to middle school because of the distance and family circumstances. So we couldn't all go to school. And also the education system isn't well established. It's very weak.
To become weak.
I want to do something similar. When Korea reunifies, I plan to visit North Korea and purchase property there. Anyway, we have more days ahead of us to live here in South Korea.
In North Korea.
Than we lived in North Korea. And I don't know if everyone can have ambitions and dreams, but since he couldn't attend school in North Korea, he wants to establish a school and help educate those children. That's what I heard today. He attended People's School, which is up to the 4th grade of elementary school in our country. But after his father passed away early, he fell into financial hardship and had to work to survive, so he couldn't even attend middle school. Later on, his older brother suggested they go to South Korea, so they came to South Korea and started living here. Even though I came to the United States at 18, what would someone who only farmed in North Korea really know? I only came here after watching dramas, And while going through all that, I had some ups and downs. And now I'm currently attending college.
While attending college,
I also had the opportunity to study abroad in New Zealand.
With these kinds of opportunities?
I think these opportunities came up because I'm still young. Being young means there are many things I can do, and I still have a lot to learn. Because socialism and democracy are such different systems.
That's why I have to learn.
I will fully support you so that you can freely learn what you couldn't before in our country and make sure you achieve what you want to do. All I can do is support you. That's enough. Lastly, please say a few words to our viewers. Yes, thank you for inviting me to YouTube today. I had a great time filming. Since I'm not very used to filming for YouTube, there may have been some shortcomings, so I ask for your understanding and support. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Our viewers will also be cheering for Young Myung. And, well, YouTube is just about coming out and doing it like this. If it's your first time appearing or if you're not used to it, you might feel nervous.
Because of that, whenever
you're fully prepared. And if you ever feel like, there was something I couldn't say back then, you can always come on the show again. I'm nervous now and can't think clearly, but next time...
Yes, next time.
Also, when I say, now I can be invited, I
will invite you again, like this.
Thank you for appearing on our show.
Thank you.